Today I announce my candidacy to sit in front of you and act like an ass. I accept my own nomination.
Anyone second?
Seconded.
Motion carries.
I vote for me. Any objections? No? Okay.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming out to the web series panel. Is this correct? I think we're.
I was just told about this like 5 minutes ago. Just like, okay.
Yeah, we just all got a text message and sort of assembled here like superheroes.
Geeks assembled.
Oh, we're the Avengers of this convention.
Awesome.
Except for everyone dressed as an Avenger.
Yes.
I want to be Black Widow.
Should we sort of go down the line and introduce ourselves and what we do? You want to start?
I don't know who you are.
I'm Doug Walker. I have a website called IGotTheGlasses.com. I do a lot of characters like Nostalgia Critic and Chester A. Bum. It's mostly review, comedic review related, but we also do sketches and like yearly anniversaries where we get a bunch of our producers together who also do reviews and funny things, and we should film a little movie with it. Yes, long live. Yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I just make an ass of myself for a living.
That's also what I do, so this is good. I'm Pat Castles. I write and perform for collegehumor.com. We basically do funny videos and articles and all sorts of other weird, silly content for the internet. And yeah, also make an ass of myself for large audiences.
It's like an AA meeting. I also make an ass of myself.
Ass is anonymous.
I'm Doug Cowell. I'm from Dog2 Media. And we do character-based skits and just online different characters. We do a lot with puppets and mostly just geeky stuff, and I also make an ass of myself for your entertainment.
It's hard to admit that.
It's the first step.
I'm also making an ass of myself. No, I don't. It just seemed like the right thing to say. I have a web series called Working Class Nightmare. It's call it a social zombie comedy, which is based on my horrible experiences working retail for GameStop and Toys R Us. I don't recommend it to anyone. Yeah, and I don't even think I said my name. My name is Jay Joseph. Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Elise Link, and I am an actor, and I'm the star of Jay's web series, Working Class Nightmare. And sometimes I also make an ass of myself. And I'm the token girl.
Got the token black and the token girl. No.
Yeah.
And I'm the glasses guy. Which one's Hulk?
Token minority.
You just pulled your back out.
Right?
Which one of you died at lumber horror movie?
Okay, that'll be the big twist. I'd be like, you know, got the glasses. He's got to be the brain. He'll make it. Ah, he's dead. Wow. Okay, so as you heard, I mean, we came unbelievably prepared for this. So I'll say months. So let's just go ahead. I actually have done panels like this before, though. So I mean, probably the best thing usually just to do is just take questions from you guys. Just any questions you got about how to start a web series or different ways and different methods and so on and so forth. Yes, Doug. Okay. How did you start, Doug? What's a good question, Doug? In fact, I like to ask all of you that. That's a good question, Doug. Thank you. Basically, that is usually the first question.
No, you're good. You're like Jack from Lost. You assumed the moderator role of this.
Give me a pen.
Yeah.
All right. So basically, what happened with me. It started as a hobby. I was making these 5-second movies on YouTube that really like took off. And for anyone who doesn't know, that's just taking like clips from a movie and condensing down to 5 seconds. So like I did Titanic in 5 seconds. A clip of this guy saying, "The ship can't sink, it sinks." The end. After that, those were really taking off on YouTube. I gained lots of subscribers, and I just said, okay, well, I wonder if like I'm funny, like acting and editing, writing and stuff. So I tried a few characters, and one of them being Nostalgia Critic, and they just took off. And finally, a friend of a friend came along named Mike Mashad, who said, you know, he liked to pretty much give me a website, and that you can actually, he wanted to use me as a way to start his business called Channel Awesome. He said what I'm doing is very similar to stuff he wanted to see. And this is at a point when nobody was getting paid for this. He's like, you can make a living at it. No, you can't. No, you can't. And he said, I'll show you. I'll give you the website and everything. I did, okay. So I went in there. I was an illustrator at the time, and I pretty much gave up illustrating for a couple months to totally devote my time to this, because he said he needed 3 videos a week, which that take up all my time. So I took a bit of a risk. I went in there, and it paid off, though. He made it work, and we got a connection with Blip.tv. And been making a good chunk of our living from that. And yeah, and then from there we started bringing other producers on and other talented people, and just turned it into a community. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I have a question for you. I'll start with the questions.
But this isn't from me, so I don't know how this works.
The questions, not from, what do you mean?
Oh, no, because I asked the first question.
Oh, I guess I have a second question for you after your own question for yourself. Why do you think because the internet, there's so many movie review, web series, and things in the same ballpark of what you do. Why has yours risen above others, do you think?
I have a very good answer for that. Luck. Well, and actually, I sort of mean that. I mean, it's like I think I'm pretty good at what I do, but at the same time, I came in at just the right point when people weren't really doing this. The only one who came close was James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd, who was doing nostalgic video games. I'm being angry. Now, I always wanted to do something like this because I love reviewing movies. I love getting angry, at movies. So it just seemed like, well, okay, this guy can do it video games, and maybe I can do it with stuff that I like nostalgic movies and shows and stuff. So I started doing that, and just people hadn't seen that yet. And that's why I think people were like, oh, I remember that. Oh, and everyone goes through that nostalgic phase, I think, where they just become obsessed with what they grew up with, and they want to see all of it. And then when they see someone watch it and say, this isn't as good as I remember it, have fun with it, I mean, I think it just struck a chord. So really a lot of it was just right place, right time.
Yeah, I would say, I guess that would just mirror that and say what we do at College Humor is, we also kind of mine a lot of nostalgia, or, we have in the past, though it's a very different, I think, genre in a lot of ways. But what was the first, what was can I say somewhat controversial question?
Okay.
You did the review of Matilda, right?
No. I know where you're going with this. Thomas and the Tank Engine is probably what you're thinking of, but continue with your question.
Well, it was the actress from that movie. Wasn't there a sort of Twitter-like kerfuffle?
Here's what happened here. And this is actually a good thing to talk about, because it shows how to take a situation that could be bad and turn it into something good. With what I do, I make fun of a lot of actors and actresses and stuff like that. In reality, I don't care. Do what you want. I'll make an ass of myself too. Whatever. But Mara Wilson, the star of Thomas the Tank Engine movie, the cinematic classic. I guess some of my fans were going to her Twitters. The nostalgia critic doesn't like it. And
That was
oh, thank you. Awesome.
That's why you brought it up.
And I guess she says she was just having an all-around bad week. There was some sort of libel thing in this British paper making up shit about her, and then she had this on top of it, and she just said, you know what, screw the nostalgia critic. I don't care what he says. He's an a-hole. Blah. I mean, just got really angry. And word got back to me and sort of the Channel Awesome people, and we just went, ah. So I sort of wrote this olive branch on my Facebook just saying, hey, this is a joke. Here's some joke. I know I sort of made fun of how you look and stuff, but here's a lot of the stuff I heard about me. Take your pick. And a lot of people behind the scenes too were sort of going in, talking to her on Twitter, trying to calm down the Twitter and talk to her and stuff like that. Very quickly she caught on, and she just said, and immediately apologized and said, I'm so sorry. When people were saying you were a character, I thought they were like, oh, he's such a character. It's like, no, it's literally just a character, and I see you're not a jerk and stuff like that. And of course, we're just sort of like, well, okay. There's somebody, I think, on Twitter said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if they did a crossover to sort of calm down the craziness and stuff? Would you be interested in the crossover or something? And she said, yeah, that'd be great. And it really just turned to a big chance to her say, F you to me because she pulls out like all these embarrassing old videos of me and says, you know, it just says like, oh, look at all the smart decisions you made when you were a child. Huh? Yeah. And it's really great. And she was wonderful. And it's cool because I guess she hasn't like gone in front of the screen, in front of, you know, media and anything like that for like years, and all because of this funny little feud and just for a joke. You know, she comes out, everyone's just like, whoa, Mara Wilson, holy shit. So again, it's just during something that could have been bad. I mean, I could have been like, screw you, and we turned to something funny. So yeah, usually trying to take the more peaceful route is the best way to go. But I had a question too. I said, how'd you guys get started?
I got started at College Humor in around 2007, 2008. I was in college and I was just writing a lot of funny things for any website that would put them on their site, and that just kind of led to College Humor. So I sort of freelanced for them when I was in college, and then I interned for them around 07, 08, and it was just kind of good timing because that's when they were starting to do videos. Like really, they had been doing videos for years before that, but they were really investing in them way more heavily at this time. And we had a TV show. There was a long time we had a TV show on MTV, which was a huge hit and canceled after like 4 episodes. But
Sounds like MTV.
yeah, and so that just kind of like it just sort of grew from that. It just sort of grew with the company, like with the website, just sort of over the last 4 years or so. We just started we were putting out 1 video a week, then it was 2 videos a week, now it's like a video or 2 videos a day. So yeah, it was just kind of a combination of good timing, luck, like you said. Like I think luck is probably a huge part of it. It was just really, really good timing, but also just putting an insane amount of funny stuff out there and hoping someone would attach onto it or whatever. But mostly luck, I should be clear. So yeah, why don't you go?
I went to school for originally animation and then moved into film. And right about the time when you're leaving school, you start thinking about getting a job. I started looking at the different jobs that were available, and I got really discouraged because I'm like, well, I'm always going to be working really low under a lot of people who aren't going to want to do everything that I want to do, and I'm going to have to do all this compromising. And I was like, you know, there's this internet thing, and I can be my own boss, and I can make my own website and do the comics the way I want to do, and I can do the shows the way I want to do, and I can be character-based and create all the characters and the random like puppet videos that we want to do. And I did. And that's pretty much it. And I'm somewhat lucky. I don't think I'm.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm that lucky. But
No, you're talented.
that's it. Yes. No. That's what I was getting at. I am talented. That's why nobody here knows my name. I know it's the same as that guy's. That's about it. Thanks. All right.
I think we're kind of new to the whole web series thing. I mean, I know of the internet. I can know knowledge of the internet. But the web series thing was kind of brand new, and that's actually in film school. I still am, unfortunately. And I had a writing partner that I just really liked working with, and we were like, you know what? I pitched it at some big producer meeting one night. He was like, I want to work with you on this. And it kind of took off from there, unfortunately, because I had a charge to it. I was like the captain of the ship. And it was just, it was more, I guess, traditional planning. It wasn't like an impromptu kind of thing. We needed like crazy things like special effects, makeup, and a shooting schedule and all that, which I don't think we would ever do again. I would like to do more like sketch-based stuff, like just getting out there and get to it. But yeah, we just launched this year, and so I think we're really here to kind of like be bottom feeders up to your success. It's like, hey, we're with College Humor, guys. Watch us.
I became really interested in web series like as a genre because I think that obviously internet is where everything is going, and I think it's interesting this transition from like cable and TV shows and all of that sort of moving online, like even like, you know, Netflix coming out with their own original programming and stuff like that, and some of these like larger like cable channels having their own web series that are online only. So I really became interested in like, I'm really curious to see where it's going and how people are gonna figure out how to make the big bucks off of the web series, although I don't know that anyone's like totally nailed it yet. I think it's
No, everyone up here is a millionaire. as
everybody's
you
a
can tell.
millionaire. So good. So we'll ask you then.
Yes. Yeah, this is everything I'm wearing is from the Gap right now. So, Jay, I have a question for you. So you used to work at GameStop and Toys R Us, and that's your inspiration for the web series you do now.
Well, I mean, it's I feel like film in general is just very therapeutic for me to work through my issues. So I can't say I had the inspiration like at GameStop, it took a few years later, and I just wanted kind of a way into it. I was like, this really sucked. How do I talk about like how much this thing kind of really sucked?
Which was worse, GameStop or to work at, GameStop or Toys R Us?
Toys R Us.
Why?
It was just I live in New York, and I was in the Toys R Us on 42nd Street, which is like, yeah, exactly. So I don't think I need to go into the long list of things that happened to me there.
That's the one with the beheaded giraffe, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of like stories of like Eastern European tourists coming in? And, like,
Yeah, I
asking
do
for-
actually. That's one of the things. I had this one ambassador couple come in, and they like a pain in my ass the entire time I was there. They wanted me to take them around the store and pick out this item, go back to the stock room and get this item and all that. And so finally I'm ringing them up, and they're like, no, you have to hurry up. We have a flight to catch. I'm like, well, you guys spent like 6 hours of my time in this store. You could have told me I had like a flight to catch 6 hours earlier so I could get you out there faster. So the whole thing had become my fault, and they were trying to shove their little diplomatic immunity at me and all that kind of stuff.
The worst part was the private jet too, so they actually could leave anytime. Wanted to get out.
It's right outside the Toys R Us. I was gonna say we should have had if anyone actually did think of a question at the time, or they do have like a legit. And there you go. Yeah, it took you a while. Okay. Let's go all the way down there in the left there.
When you guys are writing the sketches, how do you guys decide what's not funny enough and what needs to be cut?
That's a really good question. How you decide what's not funny, what needs to be cut when you're writing something. A lot of it helps if you just show it to people around. I used to live with like 3 or 4 people, so I mean, there's always somebody to show it to. Now it's just my wife who doesn't get my humor at all, so it's mostly just me. But it's like I've been on for a while, so I can sort of catch on. And honestly, just go through it a few times. I mean, I think it is sort of very easy to get in a spot where it's like, I'm so funny, look at my eyebrow there, it's great. And it's like, but nobody else would see the friggin' eyebrow or whatever. So I mean, it's good just to, sometimes it's good to watch something, take a break, and come back to it. That's really good advice. Because I mean, you can edit something, once you've been working on it for so long and you think it's perfect, it may not, because you've just been working on it for so long, you're just tired of looking at it, and you think you have it down, but then when you watch it with everything else, it's like, oh no, the timing on this might be a little off. So a lot of it's subjective.
Yeah, I think that taking a break and returning to it is definitely great advice, because you do have completely different perspective. You just get so in your own head watching it or reading the same script over and over. But I mean, just for College Humor, we just have a really awesome team of writers and directors and editors so there's like a lot of creative oversight between someone pitching the idea in the room and it actually appearing on the site. It just goes through a lot of very funny, talented people. So gradually all the terrible jokes just slowly get sanded off until it's theoretically, a pretty good video. Though sometimes I think you can, there's always that one joke in a video that you're just you're completely committed to, and no one can talk you out of keeping it in the video, even though it's probably awful because it just amuses yourself. So not doing that is probably the first. But no, I think we just have it's really just trusting your fellow writers and your fellow directors and producers, and to be what if we do this instead of this, or what if maybe this joke should be this joke instead, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely good advice. I like taking a break from it and then coming back and then seeing how I feel about it. But for me, it's also, if a joke is still funny after I've been editing it for a day, or I've been going through this edit over and over again, and I'm still laughing at it, that's usually a good sign that I'm either I really nailed it, or I'm really, really tired. and that's when I usually turn to someone else and be like, come watch this and see if that's actually funny or not. Which is probably really awkward for them because they're watching something and I'm sitting on the other side of the screen, like watching their reaction, kind of awkwardly.
And you do. I know. Sometimes for us, like it does get kind of scientific. Like it does. It's a fun job, but it does become a job, and you kind of like you basically sort of know when technically something's funny and will almost definitely work, but like you're not laughing at it because you're just so burned out. Someone will just pitch a joke and you'll just be like, yes, that is funny. Yes, we will put that in there. That is good.
Very funny.
Yeah.
I mean, basically all of that. Having a writing partner.
You are bottom feeding.
Yeah, I am bottom feeding. Having a writing partner like helped a lot because we kept each other in check. It was like, I would take a pass at the script and then he would tell me what was funny, what wasn't, and then I would look at his pass and all that. But I think also what we did is we gave our actors a lot of freedom to kind of improv stuff as the shoot kind of went on. And they bought like a lot of stuff that we didn't even think of to the process. And then again, in the editing phase of it all, it was just looking at it, deciding if something or not still played out right, and bringing in other people in the edit lab and being like, just watch this and listening to their little giggles and when they weren't laughing and all that kind of stuff.
By the way, just when I'm looking at you, I have a great view because there's just like this boring, dry convention hallway, but like every 10 seconds, like just one demon walks by in either direction.
They stare and then they just go weirdos.
Any other questions? How about you there? Yeah.
Me? So how do you like make a living wage off of doing this? Because I mean, obviously it doesn't cost money for us to go online and watch your videos. So like, does it all come from like merchandise that people buy, or?
Merchandising.
By the way, there are t-shirts for sale.
I mean, merchandising helps. I mean, for us, we go through Blip and they put ads in the videos, as everyone loves to complain about. But I mean, that is how we make our living, is that with every click you get, an advertiser gives a certain amount, and if you get more clicks, it's like, oh, well, you get more money. It does, often go up and down. I mean, like in summer, it's not the best, for like, it's not the most profitable, like, around sort of like winter and fall, particularly like around Christmas time, it's like, that's the big, crank them out, that's where you're gonna really profit. But there's other clever ways, like, we have like, every once in a while we'll do like a premium membership where it's like, hey, get this premium membership for some dollars a year and you get behind the scenes stuff and bloopers and blah, blah, blah. So there's always clever ways. I hear, even though we only do a couple, I hear t-shirts are like a really big thing. Like if you can harness like, some good slogans on t-shirts and stuff like that, they're not that expensive to make and just people love buying them, they love wearing them, they love showing support, so that usually helps. But the main income for us is basically Blip.
Yes, same here. I mean, just advertising is, I think, our main source of revenue as well. There's an entire other half to College Humor that just a whole ad sales department that sort of makes that half happen and allows us to do what we do. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have, it's just pretty simply advertising. Although I'm sure it's extremely complicated when you get down to the logistics of it, but yeah. And we used to be sort of sister websites with Busted Tees, which was a funny t-shirt website. So it's funny that you mentioned that because it is definitely where we will soon be living in a t-shirt based economy, I think, is what we're getting at.
I guess I would ask you to define your idea of living wage, because we're doing okay, but yeah, we do, if you like ramen. We sell t-shirts, we have a booth downstairs, and that's mostly what drives us. We do have ads on the site that kind of help, but we also funnel most of that money into the productions that we do and the props, costumes, and stuff like that. So
we're each getting paid 30 t-shirts to be on this panel right now.
fantastic. That'll keep me warm all winter because I can't turn the heat on.
Yeah, we don't make anything of the series. And I think before this we also I had a webcomic, and advertising and merchandising was enough to pay for the upkeep, but we never really lived off of anything. Yeah, and I still owe Elise money. Actually, it's in your contract that I owe you money.
Ironically, ironically, I make money by doing other people's commercials. That's how I make my wage.
Awesome. Any other cues we got here? Let's do you.
If this is for everyone, if you had an opportunity to have a TV show, what company would you want it to be, and like what channel producer?
But it's not, what would the TV show be like, would you say? It's like, which company? Well, I've been thinking about this, because they're all coming
Disney.
Yeah, Viacom, they've been great. Yeah, I was going to say, you already went through this, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So,
Not
you know,
MTV.
yeah, just not MTV, I guess is the answer.
Quality programming like Jersey Shore?
You know, honestly, I wouldn't go the TV route because A, nobody's watching, and B, it's the same thing with sort of like film and so forth is with the internet, there's so much freedom, and the company I'm with just allows me so much freedom. It's very rare they'll come down and be like, hey, no. I mean, they'll just allow so much because the internet is still, you know, even though it's been around for years, it's still this thing that people don't quite know how to handle it or what to do with it. I mean, we're just now starting to figure out advertising. You know, I mean, but people are still like, you know, well, do we censor this? Is this appropriate? Is this not? And meanwhile, people are just going and doing what they want, and people are loving it because they don't see it on TV, or they see it bleeped out, or they see everyone wanting to put their thumbprint on it, when really, you know, on the internet, it's just usually one person or a couple people just doing whatever the heck they want. So I think that's why so many shows on the internet are so successful and why it's getting bigger and better.
I think for me, it would sort of be, the short answer would be like any network that was interested. But we actually have, we sort of started trying to develop more TV stuff at College Humor, and I think the kind of, very roughly, the process is just sort of come up with an idea and then shop it around as much as possible, and then if you're really lucky, you might get, you know, if you're very lucky, you'll get one network interested. If you're really lucky, you'll have maybe a couple interested, and then you can kind of maybe see, you can talk to the 3 networks that are, like, you know, interested in whatever you're shopping around, and then maybe you're in a situation where, well, these guys are offering me 30 minutes instead of 15 minutes. These guys are letting me be a producer. These guys are not. So I think, you know, like once if you're lucky and you can sort of pick and choose. I think it just depends on who's kind of seems like they'd be the best marriage, so to speak.
Yeah, I kind of started doing this because I didn't want to get a job in TV necessarily. So yeah, if I had to pick a network, like our main character is a gorilla in a smoking jacket. So I would love to see him on National Geographic TV. And I think we'd do insanely well, because people would just be flipping, be like, what?
Yeah, I mean, it's that's kind of my target is television. So it's honestly, now I really do feel like a bottom feeder because my answer is exactly the same. It's whoever who would hire me at this point. It's I think if you're writing or filming a pilot or a spec or something, you have to keep in mind a general target, which networks might be interested in this. But I worked for Comedy Central in the past. They didn't call me back. I worked for Black Entertainment Television last year, and then they rehired me again. But it's just kind of a getting your foot in the door type situation.
HBO, Showtime.
I was gonna say, actually, I want to change my answer. If Cartoon Network ever said, "Hey, do something for us," I'd be like, "Yes." That's like the only exception because they allow a lot of freedom too. You pick someone.
You pick someone.
Pass the buck. Doctor.
I feel like 9 guys start asking questions. Oh, should have specified.
All 11. Well, you personally, you are the one who got me into film. You're the reason, your website's the reason I got into film stuff. College Humor, it really influenced a lot of my humor, along with a lot of other things. I've yet to see your stuff yet, but I'm definitely going to check it out when I get home. My question is, what is it like being so influential in the internet community? Does it wear off? Do you ever just get amazed by it? Because you are a really big deal. At least the two of you are, I'm sure.
That was a good run. Doctor Who's an ass.
You got some bandage for the burn.
I don't like this reincarnation. I mean.
Here's a handout.
Gorilla in a smoking jacket.
So I have some sad information that Zach Finfront will not be able to make it.
We were saving a chair for it.
But Batman, like.
Awesome. Thank you. You gotta talk to Batman. I know what influence I am.
It's like someone.
Not the influence you deserve, but the influence you need.
Guys, I heard Batman's on his way.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Go have some cake. He'll be over there. I'm gonna be like.
I'm the Batman. Happy birthday, Timmy.
Okay,
You're
my
my
voice
rock
is
for the
going
day.
hoarse, so I can't do much. Bad credit card, But in answer to that, I really try not to get too into it because I guess I am afraid of I mean my ego's big enough, but I am afraid of it just getting bigger and bigger. Of course I deserve this, and do you know what I did? I think that's one of the real important reasons I try to usually say Nastasia Craig's definitely a character. There's a lot of me in it, but it's definitely a character because in reality I just never want to get soaked up into that. But the best stuff I read is when these just keep me going. This can get me going forever. Is when you get the emails that are like, "Hey, I went through a tough depression, or I was even suicidal, or I had this condition. I was in Iraq. I was in blah blah blah, and your stuff helped." And that's only like, "Oh, my poop jokes inspired somebody." And poop is always the answer. Yes.
Ew.
That stuff really means the world when you get those emails and stuff. And it is just so interesting. Just what you do is is silly, but it's that can mean the world to somebody because sometimes so much seriousness is forced on them. And sometimes they just need a nice release, and it's cool that you can be their release.
Totally mirror that. I think those occasional emails that find their way to you are always really exciting and personal. And beyond that, though, I mean, in terms of being influential, I think you probably don't want to get too in your own head, especially if you're trying to do comedy, because you can really get in a weird echo chamber and get too and just get a little too. It's still, I'm extraordinarily fortunate to be doing what I do, and it's an awesome job. But you still kind of got to approach it. You still go in, and I almost said 9, but it's actually 10 o'clock every morning, and and leave at whenever o'clock, and you're still just produce. You still are trying to just generate enough scripts to be able to shoot these funny things that are going to go on the internet. I'm just explaining what we do in these extraordinarily dry terms, sorry. So I think, I think it's just sort of keeping perspective, and luckily the commenters do a good job of helping you not get too inflated opinion of yourself. So anytime maybe we're getting a little too big for our britches, just, and
keyboard courage from somebody on the internet just brings it right back. Well, yeah, as you pointed out, I'm not overly influential. But conversely, if I could point about the other side of that is meeting somebody who you do find influential and finding out how regular they are. In case of he was awesome. But yeah, I mean that's always a very reassuring and very comforting aspect that people who you see on the internet and you do put on a pedestal, maybe not a very high one because they're making poop jokes, but a pedestal, and still you understand that what they do and you respect what they do, and finding that they're very approachable is always incredibly welcoming from this side of the table, I guess. And I enjoy that, and I love meeting people who I've watched on the internet, and that's kind of where I would like to be on the other side of that table.
I'm just gonna pass it along because I think I haven't gotten anything, but I think you've gotten fan mail. She's the face.
Reaganomics at work.
What's it like to be influential in internet media or any other?
I'm not influential on the internet, but my mom thinks it's awesome. And my thinks I'm famous. Yeah.
You guys don't have Irish Catholic mothers.
Yeah, mine too.
why do you do this? Get a job. Get a real job. They pay you and they give you benefits. I'm like,
Other questions? All right, do you want to make some? Oh, good call.
I have a question for Pat, actually. I just want to start by saying, like, I really miss Gail Beggy and Phantom of the Office. And I just wanted to know if you had any favorite characters from College Humor, like the past or now.
Yeah, I mean, they all have every one of them sort of stimulates a different part of my comedy likes. I mean, it's kind of maybe sort of a popular answer, but Jake and Amir, I've been a big fan of since the beginning, obviously. And I kind of got there right around the time it was starting, so I've just been able to see it, the evolution of it, and I think they just do a great job of like keeping it fresh. If you watch an episode now, it's just like the characters have evolved. They've really evolved in a way that I think is really hard to do with a web series because we did a panel at PAX a while ago. We talked about this, but how it's very difficult in web series to develop characters and have recurring jokes or callbacks to other things because I think the culture of the internet is so like, I mean, I think our main, College Humor's main thing is sketches because like people kind of just want that like 3-minute standalone thing that they can share with their friends without any, it's hard to send a Jake and Amir and be like, oh, this is great, but it's even better if you watch you need to watch 3 hours or 4 years of the previous content to totally get it. And that's not actually true. I think the reason it succeeded is because a lot of them work as standalone things. They're just two very strange people kind of sitting across from each other being funny. But at the same time, it's really impressive how I found it. And I'm speaking as, I'm only involved as sort of having worked across from the people who wrote that series and shot it for a number of years. I'm not one, Jake and Amir write every episode together. So almost speaking as a fan, I'm a big fan of those two guys. Beyond that, I don't know, the rest of them are sort of, I guess all of them are in some weird, strange way kind of make me laugh.
Can you beg whoever writes, or can you just beg them for more Gail Beggy?
More Gail Beggy? Okay.
Down on your knees.
Yeah.
it'll be a really awkward meeting for you next time. Like,
okay, listen, man, there was this girl at the convention. Please fucking do it.
What are your inspirations?
For doing what we do, or the actual like performance? My comic hero is Daffy Duck. To me, he's just like the perfect character, and he's just so funny. And both versions, the really wacky whoo, and then the real jerk. I actually love both of them. I mean, aside from that, I think it's pretty obvious who I rip off from. Like Louis Black, and the bits of the Daily Show and stuff like that, and Colbert. But Daffy Duck is sort of the one I'm like, if I can come even close to that, that ego and that selfishness, just that need to be somebody. I think that's always what people relate to when they see jerks and why they love laughing is because they do actually see this person actually just wants to be something, but went through whatever, has these insecurities or whatever, and I think that's why we still sort of root for them, because we still see our insecurities and, just pushed to the absolute extreme and real a-holes.
In terms of performing, I don't really have a great answer for that because I kind of fell into performing in the videos and in comedy stuff sort of as a result of writing comedy. They just kind of come hand in hand. So I didn't like study acting in school, so I didn't really dissect people's performances, though I love movies, and I'm sure on some subconscious level I'm always like drawing from the dude Elijah Wood from Deep Impact or something like that. But in terms of writing, I mean, it's just every sketch comedy series that I've seen and liked, like SNL and Mr. Show and Monty Python, are just people who can do really strong, smart, idea-based or character-based, 3-minute nuggets of comedy, because that's sort of what I spend most of my time doing now. And so anytime there's someone who does it awesome and is doing something that, and even now, we still kind of, are constantly just seeing other comedians doing internet video and being I'm just totally blown away by some of the stuff I see people are doing now. And yeah, I wish I had more specifics, but it's honestly like too many to name.
Mine are mostly old school cartoons and the Muppets. Like, I just think there's something just so genuinely pure and funny and wonderful about puppets and cartoon characters, and starting out going into animation and realizing that I don't have an animation team, so there's no way to have an animated short the way I'd like it. I started kind of realizing that I could kind of do live action cartoons a little bit and kind of have those same characteristics that I enjoyed in those cartoon characters in real life characters, and make them absurd and wacky, and then make puppets and have them be absurd and wacky as well. So mostly from there. Yeah.
If I said my parents, would that be a cliche answer? Like, yeah. Because
that's why his mom supports him. That's why.
Yes. Well, I mean, my mom was like an actress in like the 70s and going into the 80s, and my dad has been like a screenwriter and a producer in both documentary and television for a couple of years. So I grew up with like the artist genes, and I guess if they had been like doctors or lawyers, I would be more financially sound. But having like growing up around that, it was like, I want to be kind of creative and continue on writing, and just kind of perfect my own craft. And then I think just after that, I think it's kind of like my peer group that kind of keeps me going, like actors like Elise and other people that I work with, and we're like, we have to like kind of break the dam and do something with ourselves. Instead of spend all this time kind of dedicated to it, we got to keep going. But yeah.
I would like to add my dad actually to my inspirations.
Yeah, mine too.
I think he's watching this right now.
All of my relatives, actually, every one of them.
I mean, he was not a comedian or a screenwriter, but he definitely taught me like the importance of telling a joke and not worrying if other people think it's funny or not. So
that's a really good lesson.
Yeah, I agree with that. I have a lot of love for anybody who can just totally throw themselves into it without self-consciousness and without commenting on the character that they're playing. Like, isn't this funny what I'm doing? And just sort of balls to the wall, like committing to whatever that wackiness or whatever those choices are. I think that's when things are the funniest.
Do a dads are awesome panel later.
And also my
That would be a good panel.
Yeah.
Fill it with 2 hours of talking about yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's what we're doing now.
Maybe anyone over here have any questions? No? I'll make sure. We don't.
Wait,
Oh
wait,
wait,
this
Mario.
section, don't you?
What is like the limit, what people find offensive and like what people like, and like what, like I know some people like swear, and a lot of people like say like dirty jokes, certain things, some people make fun of certain stereotypes, and then like where's like the limit, like where do you find the limit? Some websites like love to go to like right to the scene, like break the ceiling, What do you guys feel like is
like our own personal life?
Yeah.
My grandpa had a great saying. He said, if it's more funny than it is shocking, do it. And I think that's really the best way to go about it. And all comedy, sort of thankfully and sadly, is going to be subjective. And what you find funny, someone else is going to find really offensive. And the other thing about comedy, is both good and bad, is that it's all based on misery. It really is. I mean, even puns, is mocking English language. And turning something into something else. Well, hey, there's dignity to this thing, and you're making it sound like this thing. It's all based on some form of misery. So I think as long as people sort of see that your intention is good, like even sort of, like the real, sort of raunchy groundbreaker, like, George Carlin, stuff like that. Like, he's saying really shocking things. Or Richard Pryor, great people like that. But they're trying to do it so you can say, hey, this is a problem and I'm trying to help you. If you're really going to say, hey, I just want to hurt somebody or hurt something, I think that's where people sort of get lost and they don't want to be a part of that usually. Because there's enough misery going on in their lives. They don't want other people coming in and forcing their misery on you. So I think as long as they can at least feel that there's some sort of good that's trying to come from it, that's usually the strongest reaction that people relate to.
I think if it comes from a place of that's just where your comic sensibilities brought you, and you genuinely think it's funny and it's not aggressive. You're not just being offensive for offensive's sake. Then I think kind of anything's fair game. I mean, the more offensive it is, the higher the risk that just other people are not going to get the joke, and that then there could be a huge backlash on the internet or whatever. But you sort of just kind of roll the dice. I think there's probably certain lines we won't cross, but in general, I think most things are fair game as long as we kind of arrive at it naturally. We just actually shot a video which was written by Owen Parsons, who's sitting over here on his BlackBerry, and it was we were struggling to do a Call Me Maybe parody, of which there are like 1 million on the internet. There was like within the week of this video hitting #1, there were so many, and we just couldn't really think of what was an angle, or we were pitching different song parodies and ways to mess with the lyrics. And then finally, I think someone had just said, kind of out of desperation, like, I don't know, in the music video, there's like this hunky guy mowing the lawn, and he takes his shirt off, and she's like watching it. Yeah. And,
I found my Facebook. It's hilarious. I'm sorry. That was really fun.
and so she's basically, it's a very short. It's like 30 seconds long. 30 seconds into it, he just takes his shirt off, and it has an enormous swastika tattoo on his chest. And Carly Rae just freaks out and like closes her blinds and crawls away.
And the song stops.
And that's it. And the video's over.
She just goes, oh God.
Yeah. And I think it was in the meeting. Owens pitched that idea out, and we all just thought it was so funny. But like we were laughing at like, oh my God, it'd be like we would never do that, and then we just kept talking about it. We just kept coming back to the swastika, and then finally someone was just like let's just do that one. Like it's making us laugh the most. It's kind of like it's the one Carly Rae Jepsen joke no one's made yet for some reason. So that's a good example, and it worked out well. I mean, I don't think, as far as we know, one thing we did have to make sure that Carly Rae Jepsen wasn't Jewish. We did do our research there. We did not want to make so it's just that, just sort of like, I think we all felt pretty confident that people would get that it was just meant to be completely random and weird and terrifying and not, and I think it worked out. I mean, as far no minimal hate mail, right, Owen, so far.
The Nazis were very angry at that.
Not like your stupid video. I personally believe that to say that something is taboo, you can't make a joke about it, you can't try and turn it into being funny, makes it worse than it is. It takes something that is already horrible and basically says that somebody's defense mechanism to that horrible thing isn't right. Like, 'cause personally, if I don't like something or I'm off color or off put by something, I make a joke about it. It's how I react to things. So I don't believe that anything should be, kind of off limits for comedy, because if you frame it right and you do it right, like that, like the swastika, if you just put a swastika up online, you're a horrible person. If you put it in a Carly Rae Jepsen video, it's hilarious. So I think it's all about framing it. And that said, that's me personally. As far as dog2media.com, I've always said we want to be family friendly for the most part and kind of be a little bit easier. That said, it makes it all the funnier and all the better when our gorilla drops an F-bomb. And we'll bleep it out so we can still be family friendly and everything, but that always gets people, like, for some reason. It's just like for like 4 videos, he's very, very, and then finally it's so. Yeah, it's definitely like, there's definitely something, I agree, there's something to be said for like, saving your sort of offensive stabs. They just hit harder, and I think people appreciate, they're more likely to get that, like, oh, you just found this you just thought it'd be really funny to like do this. You're not just trying to provoke me. Yeah, like it's not in every video, and so that way it's all the better when we kind of give them that leeway.
I think in terms of limits, I don't really have any. Before the web series, I was on the comic I had done was called Chilworth Academy, and as I was explaining to at least earlier, the guy who created that comic was a porn artist, and not only was he a porn artist, he was like a really kind of graphic porn artist. And this is
You work for Ron Jeremy?
And so when he created this, he wanted to do something that was, more family friendly, and it was like relatively teen rated. I had to hold him back, but I think for both that and like the web series, the only real limits imposed were if it was something that fit the character. Like sure, if it was a funny joke, but if it didn't make sense for the character or the storyline or whatever, it had to be cut, and then that's where our only real restrictions came in. Because I think otherwise, even on set, we were kind of inappropriate at times.
Things are always inappropriate.
Wait, does that include behind the scenes and bloopers? Because then I gotta change my answer. We are not family friendly.
No, I think we actually had a reel online in which two of our actors tried on.
I'm not one of them.
She's not one of them.
Yeah, we have a video where a puppet baby seal is at a club and he's grinding on a girl. So, like I said, it's all in perspective.
At a club or at a club?
It's called Club and Seal because I really wanted to get people who were just like I'm watching these horrible offensive videos, just like, what? But yeah, it's at a dance hall and there's this girl dancing and this baby seal just starts to kind of work his way behind her. There's a seal at a club. But yeah.
Anyone else? Questions? You were there, yeah.
So a lot of you do it on a weekly or sometimes like twice a weekly basis.
Oh, we do, yeah.
Yeah. How do you keep the humor wheel going? 'Cause some days you're just not feeling it.
Yeah, it's stuck down there.
Okay.
So you start down here, and I didn't catch all of the questions. Sorry.
The humor wheel. Sometimes you're just not feeling anything funny coming to you. How do you deal with that?
If I'm not feeling anything funny coming to me, how do I deal with that? That's the question.
Yeah.
Just clarifying. So I'm hard of hearing. I don't push it. If it's not flowing, I kind of like leave it alone and let it sit for a couple of days and wait for inspiration or something somewhere to kind of hit me. Yeah, and since I don't work on a timetable like I'm guessing some people do here, it's not that huge an issue. If it's like a timetable thing, then I'm sure it's an entirely different story. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
Token girl.
Yeah, don't worry, I'm just the only chick. It's not a big deal. For me, I do a lot of character-based work, and it's like a project-by-project thing. I find that sometimes I do my funniest work whenever I'm not thinking about like having to be funny and just kind of trusting in what I know the character to be and kind of throwing it away a little bit, and then going back and looking at stuff and like. Sometimes I'll like have improv something and then like not remember anything that I said because it just sort of happened, and a lot of it ends up being truthful and therefore ends up being funnier than it would have been if I was like, oh, this will be really funny if I say this or do this thing.
When I started out and it wasn't on a timetable, if I didn't feel like it was funny or I didn't feel like it was going to work right or I was having a bad day, I wouldn't do it. And then I started having people help me out with videos and have a crew and kind of realize I would come home and be like, oh man, I really don't want to shoot this video and I really don't want to get dressed up as an ape. But there's people coming and we have to get it done. So there's a lot with that, but I also found that having a crew there was also really great when I'm like, oh, I don't know if my responses are going to be that funny to these things to bounce them off of. And a lot of times with the crew too, with that is improving and just being like, all right, well, leave the camera rolling and come talk to this puppet about here's this topic, and we just riff and go back and forth and improv, and we'd kind of find gems with that. But also just kind of powering through and finding out once you get in that groove, if you've been doing it for a while, you can kind of get into a place where you're like, yeah, I can just kind of get back the funny and get back the enjoyment of it, and that's kind of it. It's like I don't think anybody here dislikes what they do, so at the heart of it, I love making videos, and as soon as I'm kind of there, then the funny kind of will come back.
We're sharing. This is our joint microphone. I think I find it splits pretty evenly for me between random sort of moments of inspiration. If you're just walking down the street with someone having some silly conversation, and then you're like, oh, that could be a sketch, and writing that down, versus actually sitting down at a desk and putting not really wanting to, but sort of, and then thinking of 5 or 6 ideas to be able to pitch or to be able to write a script based on. And you know, the second is it's way more enjoyable the first way when it just sort of happens and lightning strikes, and it's kind of the best feeling in the world in a lot of ways. And the other way is a little more painful, but I think I've sort of just again, like you said, like you had alluded to, you know, we do kind of have a timeline, so you know, you want to be able to come to pitch meetings with a decent amount of ideas. So you do kind of got to force yourself, you know. It is the work half of it, but. Once you sit, I've always found that once you sit down and just start forcing your brain to do it, it eventually it becomes easier, and the ideas do start to come. I don't know how many of them wind up being good, but they do come. And then beyond that, as College Humor as a whole, it does have this large staff of writers, all of whom are all very funny. So there's definitely a sort of backup plan in the sense that I think just the number of writers and the number of ideas we're bringing to every meeting, there's always going to be, you know, a couple of gems in there that we'll be able to write and produce.
Yeah, sort of what he said. That is the business end when you have a timetable and you have to put something out a week. So you can't just say, oh well, hold off, the fans will understand or something. It's this one joke. I'll wait a few weeks. It's like, you know, you gotta put it out every week. And again, there's sort of an advantage disadvantage to forcing yourself to write a joke, because on the one hand, yeah, sometimes you don't have the time to really flesh it out. But on the other hand, you find yourself. It's like, okay, I gotta put something here, and sometimes you'll just put the craziest, weirdest thing simply because you had to. But what I usually find is that if I'm really, because I do remember there was a point, I actually remember the exact reviews. It was like the Pound Puppies movie and the Pebble and the Penguin. And both these reviews, I felt like, okay, you know, I've been doing my, you know, just sort of my okay thing, you know, but now I'm gonna return to my roots. I'm gonna get really angry. I'm gonna play clips from other movies, the nostalgia Greg everybody loves. And I did them, and I showed them to people. Still same reaction. It's okay. And I realized I wasn't doing anything new. I was just doing the same thing over and over. I just say, I get angry and stuff. And what I found is that I need to do something a little fresher. You know, so maybe some more visual jokes, maybe some different takes on stuff. Was it? Was it? Oh, the Let's Play. No, that I was going out of town. I just needed something fast. It should. But a lot of times when, when you don't have something, I finally figured out, okay, if I want this to keep being good, I need more time to dedicate to my writing. And I need to, when I'm writing and I can't think of something, I will just sit there and wait and think and just do my best not to really force it. You know, I just allow myself more time to that, because you should take like a few hours to write something. But now if I still want it to be good, I'll allow it to be like half the day. You know, I'm just sitting there, you know, just, okay, I can't think of something, let me just think. I could sit there for like, 10 minutes to like, 20 to 25, just thinking of the right joke, or what needs to go here. And sometimes you don't have the time, sometimes you're on a crunch, but usually if you can just allow yourself more time to think about it and to just let it sit, that's usually the best. But you don't always have that amount of time, so just work with what you got. So you raise your hand a lot.
Was there a particular moment in your works that you just like personally love? Not what the fans love, but you guys just like personally like was proud
No.
of?
we're
Hate
sad people. We hate ourselves. I guess I'll go. There's a couple that I really freaking love. Some things just for like the gratification, like talking to the Animaniacs creators. That's like, Sherry Stoner's like one of my heroes, man. She just like wrote and produced and did the voice and created these characters. Just unbelievable. She was Ariel and Belle. What the hell? So I just think that's really cool. But in terms of like comedy, the Mara Wilson thing I think is really, really funny. Yeah, that's it. I love the Mara Wilson one. Oh, the Moulin Rouge review I really like, because I got to work with Rental Floss, who we've always talked about doing something, and we just threw our so much into that. And it took months to do, and it's like where these usually take about a week to put together. It was nice to have one where it's like this took months, and it's really nice. And that one I think just worked out really, really well.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just trying to like flip back through the catalog, I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of videos that were not huge hits that I just really love. A lot of the weirder, crazier ones. I mean, the Carly Rae Jepsen thing, and just speaking for sort of college humor broadly, was really exciting because I think it was the kind of idea where like I guess we knew that it was Carly Rae Jepsen. Like, I think anything even like tangentially related to Carly Rae Jepsen will be the most popular thing in the world. But I think we all I think in the back of everyone's head was like, this is a pretty weird idea. There's a swastika in it. So, you know, it definitely felt somewhat like a dice roll. So it was, but there was a sense that we were doing it kind of because we just all really believed in the idea and thought it was very funny. And, so when that wound up, I mean, when that wound up doing pretty well, it was pretty exciting. So in recent memory, that's one that I feel like everyone kind of was very excited about, right, Owen? Yeah. Owen's ecstatic right now. That's the most excited I've ever seen Owen, actually.
Our main show is an ask segment, so it's people submit questions to the gorilla and he answers them. And,
that's the best sentence I've ever heard.
Never thought I'd ever say that sentence, honestly. In college, I'll be making a show. And so I often love kind of like things that get thrown to me that become something that I didn't even know what they were at the beginning. And one of them was someone asked, could you keep a pet hipster? And so, and ironically, I had just done a video shoot in Connecticut actually with this camera guy who was like the epitome of a hipster, and he was such a bad camera person. He was just like everything that you think of when you think of a bad hipster. And I got home and I had this in my inbox. I was like, this is great. And I basically just did an impersonation of this camera person, and I still had Pabst PBR left that I had bought him for the shoot. So they became hipster treats. And it was just me with all this hipster stuff that I kind of cobbled together and a dog collar. And I was like, it's gonna be this one-off joke, it'll be great. And he's been this like reoccurring character that just keeps coming back. And everyone hates him, and I hate him, and every other character hates him. And someone pointed out, it's like, that's the character that looks like you though. I'm like, oh wow, that's really messed up. Every other character is like a mask or a puppet, and meanwhile it's like me, very plainly me, with just hipster glasses. But I love him. I think he's such a fun character to just hate.
I think on our set we just had like a ton of improv that the actors did. We had like a cast of 5 people, and just everything off the top of their heads, as I hadn't seen it before, it was like hysterical to me. And we had one dude, Vance, who's plays the main villain, like the main goth villain in the show, but he's very much a hippie in real life. And I think there was like a day we were shooting where he was just kind of like dead, and it was exhaustive and it was long, but he had everyone kind of in tears on set. And my dad was actually an associate producer, so he was there one day, and he has like this little snort that he likes to do. I don't think I can. It's like or whatever every time. It's horrible for the camera, for the sound. And I had to like send him out the room. I'm like, I'm glad that you're finding this funny, but you gotta go. And like a lot of that improvisation didn't even make it into the final cut, but it was just like hilarious to watch it unfold in front of you.
So I am in Jamal's web series, I'm like a singer-songwriter and I play the guitar. I don't play the guitar very well. Actually, I'm pretty bad at it. And after doing that web series, I was cast in like a commercial web series, like for a product, and they saw it and had me play the guitar and wanted me to like do this improv thing and play the guitar like in Central Park, talking to actual people like in this character. And I was terrified, and it's probably like the most terrifying thing I've ever done. So I feel like I'm really proud of like having done it, even though I'm an appalling guitar player and people keep hiring me to do it.
Also speaking of improv, because she sings a few songs in the series, and you co-wrote or wrote most of those songs, and they're like, I think one song is just called "The End of the World Is Not Forever," and it's just those lyrics over and over again. It's really, I don't know.
It saves the world.
It's how she got hired.
I just say I like that you got to tell your dad, like, thanks for funding this, but get out, you're messing up the sound guy. That's awesome.
You down there, I think you've been raising your hand a lot.
Yeah, I was curious, you guys in the past have reached on to things that, like, let's say controversial issues. Star Wars Episode 1, everyone hates that. And,
That's controversial.
Why it's the best thing on cinema?
I was curious if you guys are going to keep doing this, like with Prometheus, if you're going to keep talking about things people hate and making fun of it. Like Prometheus, like making fun of it.
Making fun of how good and brilliant it was, you mean? I'm confused. I don't understand. We are actually writing a Prometheus video, but it's kind of about like the debate because I feel like it's sort of everyone I talk to, there's like a divide between some people think it's like this brilliant Kubrickian thing, and other people think it's just really like overloaded. And I think it seems to skew more towards the people disliking it. But Prometheus is not. I'm just making a Prometheus panel. I'm sorry. That was not the point of the question, was it? Prometheus has grown on me. Is all I'm gonna say. I'll leave it at that. That's my later panel I have tomorrow.
The dad's panel, right?
Yeah, it's in the dad's panel. Sorry, what was the question?
That is just like Episode 1, because that's like a widely hated movie. So I just meant like anything that's like really hated by everyone.
Yeah, I think if the hatred of it is like a phenomenon, then we'll probably maybe try and comment on it, the same way we would comment on any kind of phenomenon, or if just we as writers just really feel maybe have some reaction. We've definitely done some videos that are maybe slightly just more like airing some personal grievances against movies or people or girlfriends or whatever. But I feel maybe you could probably feel this one pretty well since it's sort of what you do to a certain extent.
Yeah, actually, so something to talk about with that. A little off topic, but one of the earliest videos I did was when the Cloverfield trailer came out. I was one of the first people just to talk about this trailer. It wasn't even nostalgic, but I was like, I'm making a special exception, blah, blah, blah. And that was definitely a zeitgeist thing because that video got so many views because the minute I saw that trailer and there wasn't a title or anything, I went, oh my God, this is gonna be huge. I ran, as I'm driving home, I'm just thinking about a sketch, an idea for it, and I go and I film it and I edit it that night and I put it up immediately. And the next day I was like one of 2 videos that was talking about this trailer. So it got a ton of views. So something that is big or is gonna be big is like get to it early. Because, as of now, nobody watches that video. It's like, Cloverfield, oh yeah, that movie, okay, whatever, but it's like when it first came out, everyone's like, what? Video, this guy's talking about it, he'll enlighten us. Hey, he's funny. I didn't learn a thing, but he's funny. We'll come back to him. Subscribe, all that stuff. But in terms of, the big thing used to be Twilight. Everyone loved to make fun of Twilight. They still do, I guess. The big thing now that I'm finding, I'm actually gonna put in my next review too, 50 Shades of Grey. It's just hilarious. Now I guarantee in a week or 2 that's gonna be old. And that people are gonna be like, geez, and our 50 Shades of Grey. But it's like, now it's hot, and I know it's hot. And and it's just at that point where it's almost hitting that middle peak where it's about to hit its decline. So I know I gotta hit it fast, and I gotta make a joke about it. So I'm gonna do it in this video, and then after that, probably never again. I think it is important. It's like when people really hate something and you're gonna come to it, be sure you have a different point of view, or if you're gonna hate on it like everyone else is going to, be sure you're one of the first ones to do it. Because then people will be like, hey, that person's right, even though a million people have said this, before. If you're one of the first to say it in the media, people will be like, hey, this guy thinks what I think, yes, that's all I've got to say about that.
For me,
I'm sorry, just one thing. Did you see the Gilbert Godfrey 50 Shades of Grey?
No, but I hear it's hilarious!
For me, the only thing that I think we did that was like really like that kind of like catching the curve ahead of time was we were like going to do a special video if we hit so many subscribers on our Facebook page, and the day before we hit it, I was like, okay, I got to think of something. Like I had a couple ideas. Someone sent me this video that like I had never seen, most people had, for Friday. And I was like, this is horrible. And exactly that. I went through and just was like, well, I just want to say it's horrible over and over again. And it was like my first stab at like doing a review. And I just started like watching it and figuring out all these like ridiculous things, like the fact that they cut to a car and the wheels aren't moving. Like it's very obviously green screen. I can make fun of the fact that it's green screen, but I'm like, they're not even trying. The wheels aren't moving. And so that was kind of our first attempt at reviewing something. But I was like, exactly that, like really glad that I kind of caught that, because 2 weeks after we put that video out, everybody and their brother was talking about this video and how they hated it, and it was just kind of violent anger about it. And I was like, well, I like that I made a point or two.
Yeah, our series itself didn't really have, it had a few like light pop culture references here and there, but it didn't really target anything specific because, it was always moving. But I think when we did the comic, you were able to kind of jump on things a lot faster. And since the comic was both me and Dave's mutual hatred for things, we would basically, news would come out and like overnight we would kind of like write it and then get it up and just kind of react to it that way. But then the same day we updated, we found like 20 other comics also updated with the news. So was more kind of like the cultural thing, like, oh yeah, we're all on the same page and we all really kind of hate this one thing. But this other thing does have to be kind of quick because after something passed by after a couple of days, we're like, no, let's just act it, we're not going to do it. Move on.
You know, since most of your guys' web series are comedy-based, you have a pretty good idea of what's funny and what's not. But for you each personally, what tickles your funny bone the most? Like, what makes you laugh the hardest?
Them?
That swastika thing.
Swastikas. It's just if I had an answer for that, I feel like it would just be. Then I would see something tomorrow that wasn't that and would make me laugh 10 times harder than anything else. I mean, I think maybe I'm not using the microphone here. I'm an animal. I mean, my sensibilities kind of skew towards sillier. They've kind of. I feel like it's definitely shifted. I kind of used to sort of be into like very heady, like Monty Python-y type stuff, but then like I think probably like anything, your taste just changed, like because I would just ingest so much of that my brain just sort of revolted, and now I found myself just being way more into like really just stupid, silly, character-based stuff, and I'm sure that could change in a month if I keep ingesting that kind of stuff. So yeah, it sort of depends on where I am in my life spiritually. Just kidding.
In all honesty, if you're talking about like internet stuff, I mean, there's movies and stuff, but something that I just constantly come to that just always makes me laugh, I mean, like really hard, in all honesty, college humor. I think the funniest sketch I ever saw in there is I know you guys have done it like, 20 Dark Knight sketches, but they're so funny. And the one that just made me laugh the most is where it's the interrogation scene with the Joker, except they accidentally switched the Joker with this birthday clown that was drunk. And so Batman just has this poor innocent guy, he's just beating the shit out of him. He's like, where are they? Who? Where are they? Oh God, who? And he just keeps on shooting. And the guy is just so confused while he's just seeing this giant bat yelling at him, and his performance is just so good.
We should actually. I think we're doing another panel. College Humor's doing their own panel tonight at 8:30, right? And I think we're going to be premiering a new one of those at that panel. So you guys should all come to that and watch that if you want. Sorry, that was just shameless self-promotion.
I also have a panel at 7. No, honestly, in terms of like a place where I go on the internet just to constantly laugh, I always go to College Humor. If I actually on my lunch break, my wife will come down and just be like, let's see what's on College Humor. So I love doing that. Love it. You guys do good stuff.
I think I used my answer. I actually answered, and then I promoted something else. So I should stop talking.
Yeah, no, I like to laugh. I think there's I laugh at a lot of myriad different stuff. But yeah, as far as just the internet, both your sites I've gone to a lot. I used to work the overnight at a gear cage at college, which is a crappy shift, and you don't see a lot of people, and you're just starved for any kind of human.
What's a gear cage?
It's where students in film schools go to pick up equipment to go and do creative things while you yourself are counting those cameras to make sure they're all there, doing nothing creative.
It sounds so much cooler. I was thinking like just a cage of gears and spigots, like some steampunk thing or something.
Match, that's what it is. We call it a cage, but we call it ER. We call it ops a lot too, which I don't know. But anyway, so I would watch a lot of videos on both your sites periodically just to stay awake. But in terms of like what makes me laugh overall, anything slapsticky. I like slapstick. I like really goofy stuff. I like when people commit to their characters and stay throughout. I don't like mugging for like, I'm so funny, and then you take a moment to point out how I'm so funny. Yeah, I don't like, but I just like laughing, so I'm always very interested in seeing what new twist on certain things people are doing, and the internet's really a great place for that, and especially with videos that link to other videos, and so I don't think I'm gonna run out of material anytime soon.
Yeah, college humor again. A bunch of different kind of sketch guys online. Mega64, I love. You know, I can't even run off the list. It's pretty much the same thing, just YouTube and searching through videos and finding like parodies and sketches and stuff that I find fun.
In general, I think Broken Expectation is super funny for me. I mean, that's kind of generic, maybe that's like the definition of comedy. But in particular, I think right now Garfunkel and Oates are like really making me die laughing. Have you guys seen that, like, what is it, the 2931 song that they sing? Or whatever, where it's like the two girls and like the one is at 29. She's like, the world is awesome, everything's great. And the other girl's like 31, it's the same girl, and she's like, everything sucks, there's nobody left. Like, I just think it's so funny, and also I feel like it's my life.
Yeah, I think we got time for one more question, so you pick.
That's all.
What's one thing you put out that now that it's out, you're like, oh, well, that shouldn't happen.
Well,
you can take it back.
If I could say, I mean, a couple for me. Definitely the Let's Play parts. That was real bad. I mean, but here's the thing. Even I still don't know. I mean, some of our producers, when they put out a bad video and they really don't like it, they'll take it down. I don't know if I can do that because it just gives you an opportunity to have fun with it and make fun of yourself and say, hey, I make mistakes too. The only time I ever removed a joke because I thought it was inappropriate, it was inappropriate. It was during Ernest Saves Christmas, and it was a, what was it? I think it was like an autism joke, and it just, it didn't make sense. It wasn't fair. It wasn't funny. And I sort of said, if anyone complains about this, I'm going to remove it. And like that day, a person said, hi, I'm I have autism, I'm very high functioning, a lot of autistic people are high functioning, and blah, blah, blah. And I just said, you're right, it's gone. And the person was just like, whoa, okay. and yeah, I mean, that's the only joke I removed because I was just like, this is not fair and it's not funny. So I took that one out, but I've never removed any other jokes.
I didn't even know, a number of years ago we wrote a video that we did not put on the site. I mean, this is just for the sake of having an answer. I don't know, because I did not write this video, but I was kind of working with originals at the time that this sort of debate happened. And so it was basically, the joke was, it was called Cowboy Up, and it was a commercial for an ointment. If your child was crying or complaining or was like ill or something like that, it was this invisible ointment that you put on your hand and applied by like smacking them. And it was really a very intense joke. And we actually shot it and we watched it and we were like, this is pretty offensive and it's kind of weird and like child abuse isn't really funny. So but at the same time, it was such a strange, ridiculous video. So we really grappled over it and ultimately decided like maybe it wasn't really right. Though we did, a couple of years later, we did this thing called Lowell Aid, where we just basically raised money for charity. And if you donated money at different levels, you would get like, one was like a blooper reel, and you send you a private link to these different things. And so we kind of decided like, okay, well, if you donate this much money, we will show you this like never before aired sketch, because we figured like the karma we would be losing by releasing this awful video into the universe would be like offset by the money we were raising for charity. So it finally did see the light of day for, though it's probably actually kind of mean because the people who were seeing that are probably the nicest people in the world. We were just punishing them for their generosity. So that was just something where it's like, yeah. Again, it's like, it goes back to the thing with like the Carly Rae Jepsen thing, it's sort of just, we're all reasonably funny, smart people, you just kind of use your instincts, and that was one case where we decided to sort of take a step back.
With my site, I've kind of have this mandate that once we post it, we don't take it down unless it's something ridiculously offensive. Like so, mistakes in the edit or mistakes that get through, spelling mistakes in the credits, we just leave and we kind of own our mistakes. The one thing that we've taken down was a series, because we started opening up. We had a lot of interest from other people who wanted to do a show with us, and that was kind of cool. So I'm like, yeah, design a show and do it for us. And we have a lot of contributors. And one of them created a show, and it was just offensive. There was nothing else to it. It was about it was basically about lessons in pimpology, and it was ridiculous. I'm like, we're a family-friendly site, and we finally just kind of cut ties with this individual and took the whole thing down.
Look, man, I thought it was funny when I sent it to you. I'm sorry.
And the worst part was, honest to God, if it was funny, I probably would have been like, all right, well, that's not where our speed is, but it's we have one series that's done by a contributor that's a non sequiturs, and her season ender was they're just ridiculous scenarios. And the season ender was her applying for a job with her hands and getting responses on Craigslist and what that might lead to. And I was like, you never show anything. It's nothing it's implied. So if people get it, then they get it, and if they don't, it's not offensive. It's fine. But this was just it wasn't funny. It was just him sitting there being like, this is what you do when women do this. I'm like, nope. So that was kind of the only thing that we've ever expunged off of our dealings, and we never speak of it.
I like how we're ending this panel on just regret. That's the line of regret.
The worst moment in my history of
Thanks,
God.
And I was kicked I don't know if ours is regret. I mean, it's not a shouldn't have happened, and our series is too young for there to really be anything to make or break it. But there is definitely a huge experiment that I pull kind of in the middle of the web series. So I mean, it has kind of a horror-ish tone to it, and then just smack dab in the middle of the web series is a sitcom styled episode, traditional 90s laugh track kind of stuff, and it's just I mean, but since it follows kind of a narrative storyline, it's gotten that episode has definitely gotten the most interesting response. Because you have some people oh, we're the zombies, we're the monsters, and then you have other people oh yeah, we love this. It's like niche, and people get that one. So and the idea behind it was that there were going to be more genre-breaking things in the web series, but funding and time didn't allow that to happen. So that one stayed, and I don't regret it. I just thought it was. I always knew it was going to be a bit of a risk though.
Because I'm not generally producing the stuff that I'm in, if I have made some sort of mistake or something I wish I didn't do, I don't usually have any control over it. So I kind of just have to agree with the negative comments on YouTube and chalk it up. No, not you. Another web series has them, and you have to feel if you have haters, then you're legit. So.
Okay, I think that is it for this panel. Thank you all so much for coming out. Enjoy the rest of your weekends.
If you guys like flyers, stuff.
I can't. I'm really off to go something. I'm sorry. No, I'll be actually at my booth around 3 or 4. I'll be there signing stuff. It's in the artist alley. Take care. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.